Hi, welcome to the lecture on the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. At the end of this lecture, I hope that you have learned about the NIST Cybersecurity Framework and know its 6 functions. I hope that you're able to identify how the framework supports resilience. And I chose to do this as a lecture instead of just have you read about it because it's important to me that you use this framework as an organizing schema for your learning throughout the course. And so I'm going to try to foreshadow some of that in this short lecture. So the framework has 5 operational functions and it has 1 strategic function. You can see the operational functions around the outer rim to identify, and this means that you understand the organization's business, its assets, its risks, as well as your cybersecurity capabilities. To protect, which means that you understand, or the organization implements safeguards to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information and systems. Detect, which means that the organization can identify and analyze cybersecurity events to determine if there is an incident. Respond means taking action to mitigate the impact of the cybersecurity event. Recover means restoring the systems and the information affected by an incident and implementing measures to prevent recurrence. And then govern is simply establishing and monitoring cybersecurity risk management strategy, expectations, and policy. Govern really is meant to connote that cybersecurity isn't an add-on, but that it's an integrated part of the organization's values and way of functioning. So this is the table that is meant to foreshadow some of what you're going to learn throughout the course. And you aren't going to necessarily learn it in the order that this is presented here. So if we start in the far right-hand column, which is identify, the purpose of identify is to understand assets, risks, dependencies. We just talked about that, right? So examples of controls, examples of things that you're going to learn about in this course that would help an organization identify would be risk assessments, system inventories, review processes. And you don't necessarily learn about these next. As a matter of fact, you're not going to learn about risk assessment until Module 5. But when you learn about it, I want you to remember, that's an important part of the NIST CSF identify function. The second function is protect, and this is safeguards against incidents, or countermeasures, we call them sometimes. And here are a couple of examples: firewalls, multi-factor authentication, encryption, user permissions. So I can tell you that in Module 2, Lesson 1, you're going to learn about the principle of least privilege. And then you're going to go on and you're going to learn about access control, identification, authentication, authorization, access control to include multi-factor authentication in Lesson 2 of Module 2. And so that's part of protect. But I can also tell you, you're not really going to learn about encryption until you get to Module 4, which is also part of protect. When we look at the next function, the middle one, detect, Module 2 has intrusion detection in it. Module 2 has system monitoring. Within system monitoring, one of the things we talk about is security, incident, event monitoring tools. So Module 2 focuses partly on detection, but when we get to crypto in Module 4 and we talk about hashing, we're in part talking about file integrity. And so detect shows back up in module 4. So you see why I'm trying to preview this for you. I want you to consistently practice thinking about, okay, what am I doing here? What am I learning? And would this be part of identify? Would it be part of protect? Would it be part of detect? Or would it be part of respond or recover? Right? Because there are going to be places in the course where you learn about incident response plans, you learn about SOC playbooks, you learn about backups, you learn about disaster recovery plans. And I want you to be thinking about them in the cycle of the NIST CSF framework. So I mentioned that the framework supports resilience. And so I just wanted to make a few more comments about that. So I think in cybersecurity, we have all accepted that we're not going to be able to prevent attacks from happening. And we're not going to be able to always detect when they do happen. And so it's important to have this life cycle approach and to understand that once it's happened, it's important to respond and to recover well. And that in order to do these things, you need to be able to govern. And govern sometimes means making policies within your organization, but it sometimes also means having relationships outside of your organization. Because if you have had an attack, it might well be that you have to communicate with somebody in law enforcement. It might well be that you have to communicate with partners, stakeholders, suppliers, vendors within your supply chain. And so when you identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, and you really think about it holistically, then you're able to support resilience, not just for your own organization, but for your partners, your stakeholders, your vendors, your suppliers, and to help make the entire ecosystem, hopefully, a little more resilient. So I know I said it before, I'll say it one more time. I want you to be able to practice using CSF to guide your learning as an anchoring, organizing schema. You're going to get to practice it immediately by applying the CSF to the Equifax data breach. Once you've done that exercise, you can take the quiz for lesson 2 of module 1, and then you can take the end of module test, and then module 1 will be done, and you're ready to move on to module 2. Congratulations.